So what happened? Well, in this episode of the Masterminds, we will launch 6 brand new rockets. We were supposed to launch them a week ago, but it was delayed a week. You'll see why exactly that is the case in a bit. So let's rewind a few weeks. Back on April 5th, 2022, we unveiled the brand new Eagle 3B, set to launch on April 30th. Obviously, that didn't quite happen, and that was mainly the case due to delayed construction of the Atlas 5 scale model rockets, which you'll see in a bit. So let's get into it.
Drag brake check good. Forward fin check good. Aft fin check good. LGS check good.
Ready for flight.
T-minus 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Command engine start. 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff.
After the unveiling, I went straight to work constructing the Eagle 3B. Prior to this, we had 2 rockets bought from Estes that had already been completed and painted, just hadn't launched yet. Due to the nature of the Eagle 3B, it is made out of a huge amount of 3D printed components. So after a slow start due to bed leveling issues, the Eagle 3B began construction, or should I say printing, as it is at least a week after we started printing it that we actually started constructing the Eagle 3. Then after the majority of the printing of the Eagle 3B, I had the idea to print and build a set of new rockets and a new long series of scale rockets based off of unused Eagle 1 body tubes, which weren't going to be used for the Eagle 3 program. The day the Eagle 3B finished printing, we started building 3 smaller rockets. For the first scale rockets, I chose the Atlas 5 rockets, and particularly the 551, 431, and N22 variants, which are just variants of the Atlas 5. For these, due to weight, cost, and time constraints, they were turned simply down to 531, 411, and N22. It's mainly just I took 2 motors off, 2 external SRBs off of each the 551 and the 431. After a few misprints, printer issues, running out of filament, and other things, which caused the week delay, incorrect sizing, painting, and final assembly, the Atlas 5s were pretty much ready. But there was one more thing, which I feel makes the entire week delay worth it, because after the construction of the Eagle 3B, I decided to attempt to make the first flight computer, which will basically be entirely necessary for the future 2-stage rockets like the Eagle 3E, which has yet to be unveiled, as well as other projects. So I decided to do the first test with the Eagle 3B. After a few days of research and delivery, I started construction on the FCS GU100 flight computer, as it is internally called. After a solid week of wiring, programming, testing, and slamming my head into a wall over this flight computer, I finally had an operational flight computer finished the day of launch. The system is based upon the older Arduino Nano V3, which will be upgraded to the newer version for the Eagle 3E, as just for the data collection, we already used up and we're pushing the max amount of available RAM on the older V3 version, which will be fixed with the newer version of the Nano. But it's also more expensive. It is also equipped with an MPU 6050, which is a 6-axis accelerometer and gyroscope for seeing what the position of the rocket is, and the BPM 2080 barometer. which can measure temperature, pressure, and use those together to find the altitude, as well as a micro SD card adapter to store launch data. This system, although finicky with the unskilled wiring and preparation, in theory should work for just data collection as intended. After over a month in the making, we are finally ready to go to the launch site and finally launch all 6 brand new rockets. The launches started off with the CEL-01A, a launch that includes the Spirit rocket bought from Estes, powering the flight with a D12-5 motor, providing on average 12 newtons of thrust for about 1.6 seconds, which is enough to propel the light rocket high into the sky.
4, 3, 2, 1.
0. Oh Lord, why did it go that way?
You'll come back.
It will.
See it?
I hope, no, I can't. I hope I have it though. Uh-oh.
There it is.
We're in a dead spin. No parachute. I mean, it's there, it's just not inflating. Or what do they call it? I hope I'm catching it on here.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
It looks like maybe the parachute did. It looks small. I don't know if I have it in here at all. Where'd he go?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Why did it go that way?
During the launch, the rocket flew up successfully with the parachute partially deploying, so already a good start, 1 for 1. Also, more importantly, a first try ignition, which is important for the successful launch of the future Eagle 3 rockets. The next launch, CEL-02A, will launch Starship, another rocket bought from Estes. This will be powered by the same type D12-5 motor as the first launch.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh gosh, another one that went backwards. Oh, there it is.
Parachute, where are you? Where is it? Parachute, where?
It's right here, Aiden. It's really close.
but had a less successful parachute deployment, rendering the vehicle pretty much useless until repaired after the event. So, Here it gets interesting. It's finally time to launch the Atlas V 411, launch SRL-03A. This time it is powered by an E12-5 motor. Similar concept, but this time launching with an average thrust of 12 newtons, but for 2.7 seconds instead of 1.6. So after everybody was ready, it was finally time for launch.
Nice. Nice.
That one we can follow all the way.
Come on.
Parachute.
Parachute.
Wait.
Oh, man.
Maybe I should stop wrapping the parachute.
I think you're just wrapping them to
About the landing zone. Have the fairing separated. Booster separation. The rest of the fairing. No parachute.
Destroyed.
Fuel is gone. Don't know where that went. You got almost all the pins fell off.
Oh, the chute didn't come out.
No. One.
Wow.
So after a nice successful launch and not so successful landing, well, after the motor burned, the parachute didn't deploy and the motor burned the parachute instead of deploying the parachute. But the worst part is on landing, the ejection charge didn't deploy the parachute and all the parts separated off the rocket as soon as it landed in around a 1 to 2 foot radius around the rocket. After all the parts were gathered back at the launch site, it is time to continue with Atlas V in 22. But disappointingly, while putting the rocket motor into the rocket, the little amount of glue came undone and the motor mount caved into the rocket, basically rendering the rocket useless yet again. Adding further insult to injury, not only did the motor cave into the rocket, making it harder to repair for later, but also the other Atlas V 531 rocket had the same issue with the motor caving in. So just to make sure proper use of these rockets, I will attempt to repair and launch all 3 of these rockets at a later date, like in a week or 2 after the launch took place. So without much other options, it was finally time to launch the big boy, the Eagle 3B. This rocket had been in development for over a month and was finally time for launch. We launched it with the Eagle 12-5 motor, again powering it upwards with 12 newtons of thrust. As an interesting fact, on ST's website, they say that the motor can power a rocket with a max weight of 450 grams, around about there. But this rocket weighed, fully fueled, which is just a few extra grams, nearly 800 grams, so we're nearly doubling what they say it can do, which is almost twice the recommended max weight. So let's see how it does. After the rocket is mostly prepared, powered from the FCS, or Flight Computer System, also known as the FCS GU-100, we have about 2 minutes before liftoff, and in this time, the flight computer must be placed into the nose cone securely. So, after final power test of the system, it was finally time for launch of the great rocket, the Eagle 3 301A-02B. 3, 2, 1.
Sweet. Boom. Oh, boom. It did.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. So even with the doubt of my father and STs themselves, the rocket did lift off. And even with the free gimbal system, did sort of launch straight up. It just didn't launch that far, only getting an estimated 10 to 20 feet. And I say estimated because the flight computer didn't work. It was collecting data for the first 4 seconds of flight, seemingly stopping as the rocket launched, providing no data. It was later found that the Nano had a bent pin, which was the power pin, effectively turning off the system, which doesn't make sense as the rocket had a roughly gentle launch. This will be attempted to be solved with future versions of the system, but kind of overlooked was the gimbal system, which seemed to have stabilized the rocket, providing the unproven idea. Although it's kind of unknown if the gimbal system was the reason for the roll of the aircraft, but it still have my doubts and believe that the system kind of worked, just needs a bit of work. And I feel it is most important is that the rocket actually made it off the pad. But the rocket didn't have enough altitude to fall far enough to have the parachute successfully deploy, making the rocket launch straight up and straight back down into the ground with plenty of force, completely destroying the rocket, structure, body tube, and even parts of the flight computer were partially destroyed. Finally is the last launch, CEL-01B, which after this was our only vehicle remaining. After the removal of the completely destroyed Eagle 3B, we launched the final rocket, the Spirit rocket, with the same D12-5 motor as the first 2 launches.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, they don't go that way. It's right up ahead of me. Straight up. We have parachute.
Oh, there it is.
Yep. It's coming. Oh, it's going. It's open.
Is it open?
Yeah, it's just swiveling around.
It's just really little.
Yeah.
Staying in the field. It's good.
Yay!
2, 1.
The parachute deployed successfully, which was the first and last full successful deployment of the parachute of the day. So in conclusion, we launched 4 out of the 6 rockets with a total of 5 launches. With the 3 out of the 4 rockets were destroyed beyond further flying that day, but one, the Eagle 3B, was totaled. Out of all of them, we only had 1 full deployment out of 5 partly successful parachute deployment, but also curiously important, we had all the rockets successfully ignite their first engine on the first try, which is very important for the feasibility of launching multiple engines at the same time instead of just single engine rockets, as well as multi-stage rockets with the electronic ignition of the Eagle 3E. Anyways, thanks for watching. We will be attempting to launch all the Atlas V rockets in a week or 2, and the Eagle 3E in another launch in a month or 2. Anyway, check out the orbitals.themasterminds.club, link in the description for any updates and calendar events in the future. Bye.